The symphony hall fell silent as the last note faded. Someone in the audience gasped. Marcus Tully stood frozen at the piano, hands trembling above the keys he'd just commanded with impossible precision. The conductor's baton hung suspended in air. For 7 years, Marcus had scrubbed these floors after hours. Tonight, he'd just rewritten their understanding of genius. Before we dive into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from. The marble floor of the Solarium Hotel lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers, reflecting light that seemed to deliberately avoid Marina Tavares. She clutched her worn leather suitcase, a graduation gift from her grandmother, and approached the mahogany reception desk. The receptionist, a woman with immaculate blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, glanced up briefly before returning to her computer screen. "Welcome to Hotel Solarium. Do you have a reservation?" Her voice carried the practiced politeness of someone who had already decided the answer wouldn't matter. Marina tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "No, but I was hoping you might have a room available for tonight. Just a standard room would be fine." The receptionist's fingers stilled on the keyboard. Her eyes flicked over Marina's simple cotton dress, the scuffed suitcase, the lack of designer accessories. "I'm afraid we're fully booked, Senora. Guests like you may want to try the city hostels. I understand you're exclusive, but I can pay the full rate," Marina said, reaching for her wallet. "I only need one night." The receptionist's smile tightened. "As I said, we're fully booked." She gestured toward the door. "The tourism office downtown can help direct you to accommodations more suitable." A man in a tailored suit appeared beside the receptionist. "Is there a problem, Sophia?" "No problem, Mr. Dominguez. I was just explaining to this woman that we don't have any availability." The emphasis on "this woman" wasn't subtle. Mr. Dominguez, apparently the manager, gave Marina a practiced smile. "I'm sorry, but we simply cannot accommodate walk-ins. Our clientele books months in advance." Marina nodded, thanking them anyway. She turned and walked out, feeling their eyes on her back. Outside, she sat on the edge of the resort's ornate fountain, watching waves crash against the shore beyond the hotel grounds. Seagulls circled overhead, their cries mingling with distant laughter from hotel guests lounging by the infinity pool. She pulled out her phone and checked the time. Bruno's flight should have landed 20 minutes ago. After months apart, they would finally be together again. She smiled to herself, remembering how they'd met 6 years ago. Him, a struggling architecture student who came to the cafe where she worked every morning for coffee and toast. Her, a waitress who memorized his order and always kept a table by the window for him. That was before his revolutionary hotel design had caught the attention of investors. Before the Solarium Group had grown from a concept to a global luxury brand. Before Bruno Salazar became the name every architecture and hospitality magazine couldn't stop featuring. The rumble of engines drew Marina's attention as a convoy of black vehicles pulled into the hotel's circular drive. Hotel staff rushed outside, straightening ties and smoothing down jackets. The manager, who had dismissed her just minutes before, practically sprinted across the marble entryway. The door of the lead car opened. Bruno stepped out, his tall frame unfolding with the quiet confidence she had fallen in love with. No entourage, no security detail, just focused determination in his stride. He scanned the entrance area, and when his eyes found Marina sitting by the fountain, his expression shifted from confusion to understanding. His jaw clenched as he walked toward the hotel entrance, glancing back at her once before disappearing inside. Marina remained seated, hands clasped around her suitcase handle. Inside the lobby, the same receptionist greeted him with a brilliant smile. "Good afternoon, sir. Do you have a reservation?" "You just denied a room to my wife," Bruno said, his voice quiet, but carrying enough authority to silence the entire lobby. The receptionist's face drained of color. "Your wife?" "Marina Tavares Salazar, my wife of 4 years. His tone remained level, but his eyes were hard. "I'd like to understand why the owner's wife was told to find a hostel downtown." Mr. Dominguez stepped forward, sweat beading on his forehead. "Mr. Salazar, there must be some misunderstanding. We had no idea. That's precisely the problem." Bruno turned toward the doors. "You had no idea who she was, so you decided she wasn't worth your time." He walked back outside, extending his hand to Marina. She took it, rising from the fountain's edge. Together they walked back into the lobby, where staff members now stared openly, recognition and horror dawning on their faces. "The presidential suite is ready for you both, Mr. Salazar," the manager stammered. "And we'd be happy to arrange a private chef. Champagne, that won't be necessary." Bruno's hand remained firmly clasped with Marina's. Just the room key. Upstairs, in the opulent suite she hadn't asked for, Marina finally broke the silence. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, arms wrapped around herself. "I didn't tell them who I was because..." She turned to face Bruno, who was loosening his tie. "I wanted to see who I was without your name." Bruno crossed the room, standing beside her. "And did you see? I saw someone still afraid of not being." "Enough," she answered, her voice breaking slightly. Even after all these years, he took her hand, thumb tracing circles on her palm. "You're not enough because of my name. You're enough because you're still you, even when they treat you like nothing." Marina leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "I've missed you. I've missed you more." He kissed the top of her head. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" "It was supposed to be a surprise," she said with a small laugh. "I guess it was. Just not the kind I planned." That evening, they ordered room service instead of dining in the hotel's acclaimed restaurant. They sat on the balcony, eating grilled fish and drinking wine as they caught up on months of separation. Bruno spoke of new projects and business challenges. Marina told him about her volunteer work at the Literacy Center and the community garden she'd helped establish. "You're doing important work," Bruno said, refilling her glass. "More important than anything I'm doing." Marina shook her head. "Different, not more important. You're creating spaces that bring people joy. Not if they're only for certain people." His expression grew serious. "What happened today? It's not what I want the solarium to represent. It happens everywhere, Bruno, not just here. But this is where I can change it." He reached for his phone. "I'm calling a staff meeting for tomorrow morning." Marina touched his arm. "You don't need to make a scene." "I'm not making a scene." His smile was gentle but determined. "I'm making a point." The next morning, every staff member of Hotel Solarium gathered in the conference center. Whispers rippled through the crowd as Bruno and Marina entered, her hand in his. Sophia, the receptionist, stared fixedly at the floor. Bruno stepped onto the small stage, declining the microphone offered to him. "Yesterday," he began, his voice carrying easily through the silent room, "my wife arrived at this hotel and was turned away because she didn't look like what you thought a guest should look like." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Some of you might be worried about your jobs right now. Don't be. This isn't about punishment. It's about change." Marina watched from the side, seeing the mixture of relief and shame on the faces before her. "We don't run a luxury brand," Bruno continued. "We run a place where people should feel safe. If you only treat the rich with dignity, then we are not a luxury. We are a lie." He stepped down from the stage and took Marina's hand. "From now on, my wife will be making sure we remember that." The whispers started immediately as they left the room, but neither of them looked back. Later that day, Marina sat in what had been designated as her temporary office, reviewing guest feedback forms. A knock at the door revealed Mr. Dominguez, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Salazar, I wanted to personally apologize for yesterday's incident." Marina gestured for him to sit. "Thank you, but that's not why I'm here." "May I ask why you are here?" His confusion was evident. "To understand how this hotel works from the inside," she said, glancing down at the stack of complaints she'd been reading. "Starting with why guests are complaining about slow service and rude staff while paying premium prices." Mr. Dominguez shifted in his seat. "We maintain the highest standards for guests who look the part," Marina finished for him. "But that's not sustainable, is it? Especially when many of your wealthiest clients come from cultures where status isn't measured by designer labels." The manager had no response to that. Over the next few days, Marina met with department heads, shadowed housekeeping staff, and spent hours at the reception desk. She took notes, asked questions, and listened, especially to the employees most hesitant to speak. One evening, as Bruno returned from meetings in the city, He found Marina in the lobby, coaching the new concierge on guest interaction techniques. The key is to look at people, not just their outfits, Marina was saying. Pay attention to what they need, not what they're wearing or carrying. Bruno watched from a distance, pride evident in his expression. When their eyes met across the lobby, Marina excused herself and walked over to him. "How's the revolution going?" he asked with a smile. She held up a hotel room key. "This time I booked it for us." His eyebrows rose. "Under what name?" "Tavares." Her eyes sparkled. "Just a standard room. I figured the owner's wife should experience all levels of service." Bruno laughed, taking the key. "Lead the way, Mrs. Tavares." As they walked toward the elevators, Marina noticed Sophia at the reception desk. The receptionist gave her a tentative nod of acknowledgement. Marina returned the gesture with a small smile. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was a beginning, indeed. The standard room, comfortable but lacking the presidential suite's grandeur. They sat on the balcony watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. "I've been thinking," Marina said after a comfortable silence, "about what comes next." Bruno turned to her. "What do you mean?" "Your hotels. They could be more than luxury retreats. They could be community touchpoints. Go on. What if each Solarium property partnered with local community organizations? Job training for unemployed residents, literacy programs, sustainable farming initiatives." Bruno's eyes lit up as she spoke. "Using our resources to elevate entire communities, not just cater to the wealthy." "Exactly." Marina leaned forward, animated. "The solarium could represent true luxury, not just in marble floors and expensive wines, but in how it makes people feel. Everyone, not just those who can afford the presidential suite." "That's brilliant." Bruno took her hands in his. "And exactly why I need you more involved in the company." Marina hesitated. "I've always stayed away from that side of your life. I know, and I've respected that. But maybe it's time for both of us to step into new roles." He squeezed her hands. "Think about it." She nodded slowly. "I will." 6 months later, Marina stood in the newly renovated lobby of Hotel Solarium, watching staff greet arriving guests. The marble floors remained, but now local artists' work adorned the walls. At the reception desk, Sophia, now head of guest relations, was training a young man from the community employment program. "Mrs. Salazar?" a voice called behind her. Marina turned to find a middle-aged woman in a business suit approaching. "Yes, I'm Elisa Montero from Costa Foundation. I wanted to thank you personally for the partnership opportunity. Our literacy graduates are thriving in their new positions here." "I'm glad to hear it," Marina replied warmly. "How's the new community center coming along?" "Construction starts next month. Your husband's design is remarkable, so much natural light." They chatted for a few more minutes before Elisa departed for a meeting. Marina continued her walk through the hotel, noting the subtle but significant changes. The exclusive atmosphere remained, but now it felt earned rather than manufactured. In the restaurant, she paused to speak with the chef, a local woman whose family had fished these waters for generations. The menu now featured traditional dishes, alongside international cuisine, all made with locally sourced ingredients. "Marina!" Bruno's voice called from across the dining room. He strode toward her, tablet in hand. "The Singapore property just sent over their community partnership proposals. Want to review them together?" She smiled, taking his arm as they walked toward the beach. "I still can't believe how much has changed. All because you sat by a fountain instead of walking away," he said, kissing her temple. Down by the shoreline, they passed a group of local children participating in the hotel's marine conservation program. The kids waved excitedly at Marina, who had spent the previous weekend helping them build sandcastles. "You know what the real luxury is?" Bruno asked, watching the children return to their work. Marina looked up at him questioningly. "Having the key to something that matters," he said, "and knowing you never have to ask for it because you're the one who built the door." As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Marina thought about the woman who had sat dejected by the fountain 6 months ago. How far they had both come, her and the hotel that had once turned her away. True worth, she had learned, was never about appearances. It was about building doors that others could walk through, and having the courage to be the first one to step inside. Moral: in a world quick to judge by covers, remember that true worth isn't found in appearances or labels. It's discovered in how we treat others when status is stripped away, and in having the courage to build doors where others only see walls. The most valuable luxury isn't what we possess, but what we choose to share.